Welcome to AppSec Decoded. Today we're simulating a secure design interview round. I'll play the interviewer, and you'll see how a candidate approaches secure design thinking.
I want you to design a simple file upload system.
I can do that. But before I start, why do we focus on the design first? Why not just look at the backend code for security?
Fair question, but if we don't know how the components are created and how they talk to each other, we won't know where the risks are.
That makes sense. For requirements, I'll assume that only authenticated users can upload PDFs and images, and max 10 megabytes.
Correct. Go ahead and sketch the components.
I will use these components. Client, the user's browser. API gateway, the entry point. Backend service, to process the logic. Database, to store file metadata, like file name and size. S3 bucket, to store the actual files.
The design works. Now, tell me how you would secure it.
I'll go one by one. Authentication, verify the user at the gateway. Only authenticated users can upload. Authorization checks ensure users can only access their own files. File upload is a high-risk feature. We will have following security controls. Enforce file size limits server-side. Stop any file over 10 megabytes at the gateway to prevent DOS. Allow list file extensions. Validate MIME type. On the back end, I will check the MIME type and magic numbers to ensure the file is actually an image or PDF. Rename files. I will rename the file to a random UUID. This prevents path traversal attacks where an attacker tries to overwrite system files.
Why do we need to check MIME type? Why not rely only on file extensions?
Because attackers can rename malicious files, hence validation must happen server-side.
Sounds fair.
A web application firewall can also sit in front of the application to block known malicious patterns, to rate limit abusive upload attempts, to detect common payloads.
You shared about web application firewall. Will it come before API gateway or after?
A web application firewall typically sits before the API gateway or load balancer.
Okay, you mentioned a database for metadata. How could that DB be vulnerable to an SQL injection in this specific design?
Yeah, if the backend takes the original file name from the user and concatenates it into a describe or insert query, an attacker could name their file as droptableusers.jpg. To fix this, I'll use parameterized queries, prepared statements, so the file name is always treated as data and never as executable code.
So, we have a secure perimeter, but what if we want to implement a zero-trust security model here?
In Zero Trust, we assume the internal network is already compromised. So we can add following controls. Have mutual TLS, which means the API gateway must prove its identity to the backend, and vice versa. Implement least privilege such that the backend service should only have upload permissions on S3, not delete or list. And to have continuous verification at internal levels such that we don't just check the token at the gate. We re-verify the user's permissions at the moment the file is written to the DB.
Okay, and how does your design satisfy the CIA Triad?
It's actually built in. For confidentiality, we have encryption at rest and in transit via TLS. For integrity, I'll store a file hash, MD5 or SHA-256, in the DB. When a user downloads the file, we recalculate the hash to ensure it wasn't swapped or corrupted. For availability, by using S3 instead of local disk, we ensure the app scales and stays up even if one server fails.
Cool. One last technical detail. If you want to compress as well as encrypt these files to save space and stay secure, should you compress first or encrypt first?
We should always compress first. Encryption turns data into ciphertext which looks like random noise. Random noise is mathematically impossible to compress effectively. If you encrypt first, your compression ratio will be basically 0.
Excellent. You didn't just give me a checklist. You showed me you understand the why behind the security controls. That's what we look for.
Thank you. Secure design is always a balance of functionality and risk.
Follow AppSec decoded for interview-focused security concepts explained clearly.